Hello, this is M005 Kennedy with you today, and what you're looking at is the beginning stage of a rocket stove. Now, a rocket stove is basically a stove that has an L-shaped configuration. You can see so far I have 4 bricks here to kind of show you the layout. These are the sides. This center one's going to be the chimney. I've put another block here so that this section in here is going to be the actual burning chamber. Now we're going to put another brick, cinder brick on top here to complete the L shape, and we're probably going to put one more cinder block on the top to create a bigger chimney. Now you'll notice, of course, I'm not using mortar or anything like that, so this isn't going to be exactly airtight the way it should be for best use. Now we're doing this as kind of a survival scenario, so I would suggest that we could maybe use mud. We could have gotten mud, put it in there and dried it. Especially clay would have worked better to make it airtight, but we're doing this quickly, field expediently for a source primarily of cooking heat. So we're going to continue along. I'll show you it after I put a few more bricks on it, and we're going to actually light it up later. Now here's the brick that's going to make the top of the burning chamber right here. I'm going to try to get it as close as we can. So there, we have an L-shaped pattern here and coming out here. But we're going to put one more brick on to increase the chimney height. Now we have our last brick. See how many bricks we use. Use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cinder blocks. And this one, this last one might not be that necessary. But it certainly gets the top of the stove up to a more workable area where you wouldn't have to kneel over so much as well. Now, of course, concrete cinder blocks isn't the ideal material to make a stove out of. The fire would eventually make these bricks crack and it would fall apart. So why am I doing it? Because again, this is kind of like a expedient fire stove, rocket stove that you could make. I don't know about you, but I live in Maine, and I would wager to guess that a lot of homes in Maine might have this many cinder blocks laying around. Some people even use them for making bookshelves within their house, used for other things, but so I don't think it's too far-fetched to think that some people might have the same material. Now, there are excellent videos on making them with firebricks or regular bricks, like 27 of them or something bricks, and you could certainly do that. Maybe in a situation where you're salvaging material, maybe bricks would be easier to salvage than cinder blocks. I'm not sure, but this is what I have, so we're making it work, and that's what this idea of some self-reliance or survival is about, is using whatever materials we have at hand to get the job done. Obviously, fire brick, a nice metal stove, all of these things would be much better, but we're trying to use and accomplish something with materials that we can find readily available. So now all we have to do is fire it up. here's our finished rocket stove that we're actually going to try to light, see how well it works. I haven't seen this particular design before, made out of cinder blocks, but I'm sure other people have thought of it. Nothing original here, and I just would like to say, any idea that I come up with that someone thinks is patentable, I'm a release under the open source hardware kind of non-copyright. That means if there was an item that I was to show that you thought was a great idea and you wanted to manufacture and sell it, you couldn't, because it's released free for everyone to use. Okay, here's what I'm going to use for tinder. This is a bunch of shavings I shaved off of some wood. I'm going to combine that with some small sticks, and we're going to see if we can't light this. Here we have what would be characterized as the kindling stage. Small sticks that are easy to catch. It's interesting to note that what determines whether something's usually kindling or fuel is the surface area. You can see there's a lot of surface area here for the amount of wood that's here. As you get bigger logs, you have less surface area for the amount of wood that's in it. So this is what we're going to use. We're going to be using my lighter, which is nothing fancy. It's someone else's idea, but modified it just slightly in that they use something like a bottle cap, not cap, but a flip top to make a ring here. I used a piece of paracord. I've put some duct tape on it, and we've got a lighter. Every fire kit or anyone that's out should have a lighter. I just want to reiterate something I read in I've got a book about techniques that American Indians used, and it goes through primitive fire starting techniques, but he starts the section with saying, if you're going to have to rub two sticks together, one of them better be a match. In other words, starting fire by friction is a skill that you have to learn. This can be used by anyone. So unless you're going to take the time to learn how to do friction fire, you should always have this. Now, so that would be your primary means for starting a fire. Now, just even a slight wind today is hampering the starting up. There we go. And then we're just going to keep feeding it dry sticks and keeping it going. Pretty soon we should have a good fire going. You can see the fire started. I would say, if anything, the draft on this is too high. You can see the flames really being pushed to the back. And I made a mistake here. Look at this. I put the bricks on the wrong way. They were supposed to go up and down. So we're definitely going to change that. Okay, here's the corrected design. Ta-da! You'll notice I have no gaping holes in it for the fire to escape. So it does have to come up the chimney. And we're looking down the chimney. We can see the nice flames now. Probably, oh, we're okay in the back too. So there we have our rocket stove going with a little design modification because I guess I wasn't quite thinking straight. But now I am, and off it goes. Now you can feed through the top. I've got flames coming through the top. Okay, here we are back again. You can see something I've done wrong here is I've let the fire get too big outside of the stove. So that's kind of a no-no. We'll push that in as we go along. Now I just happened to have a neighbor come by and say they built a rocket stove and they had trouble with it because whenever they tried to cook with it, it cut off the draft and then didn't cook well. Well, here's a solution, not mine. Again, this was someone else's. You just take a little grate off of a gas grill and you put it on top. Now you can put a pot on there and you can still keep your draft. So that's important. And like I say, I think the stove might actually work a little better with a pot on it, with a draft. But I'm primarily trying to burn up sticks rather than cook, so that's why I'm not cooking right now. But so there's the end of the video. I've got 1, 2, 3, wait a second, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, 6 cinder blocks, and it makes a very good rocket stove. Not the best rocket stove. There are plenty that are better, but it makes a usable rocket stove. And the neighbor too, I said, hey, how many of these do you have around the house? Do you happen to have enough of these to build this if you wanted to? And she says, oh sure, we've got 6 cinder blocks. You know, they're using them for steps, but they could repurpose them if the power went out or for some reason they had no access to, heat or whatever for cooking. They could do it. So there you go. This is M005 Kennedy saying, if you're not spiritually prepared, you're never prepared. I don't know if you can hear the sound the fire's making, but it's roaring. You'll notice I've added the extra cinder block to cut down the draft somewhat. You see that in there. I've got an Altoids tin can, and I'm making some more char cloth. You can feed these types of stoves from the top, but here's what you end up getting, kind of excessive flames, because then you've really kind of got a chimney fire. You've got things burning in the chimney rather than on the bottom. So I would suggest that you don't do that, that you feed most of your wood, or all your wood, in through the bottom. Now here I've added an unspecified amount of water. Of course I've got the grate from the gas stove there. And we're just saying this is going to simulate cooking some soup. So we're going to see if we can get this to a rolling boil or not. I don't think there's going to be a problem with that. Here's a phenomenon. Can you see those wavy lines right there? That's called the Schillerin effect, I believe, if I said the words right. The fire is causing such a density change in the air that it's causing the air to refract differently. So even though it's actually showing you a pattern of heat, not of smoke. You can see there's no smoke now, but that's a pattern of the heat. Schillerin effect, I believe. Well, here's the final proof of the concept, that as if fire isn't going to work, but the idea of doing it with cinder blocks. Here we have, in less than 10 minutes, we have boiling water. You can see, though, that there's some smoke escaping from the bottom. It isn't completely airtight, as I said. But still, we're getting Really good heating. I've got the gas grate from the gas stove on. That way the stove can still get its draft, and I can cook. If we had just put a screen over there, that wouldn't have worked as well. I guess unless the pot, maybe if the pot was significantly smaller than the screened area was. But I mean, the area of a cinder block hole isn't that big anyway. So again, works. Why wouldn't it? It's fire. It's a age-old tested design. And who knows, there might be 100 videos on YouTube with it being done with cinder blocks, I don't know, but here's mine.